Everything is good. All right, going live. We can have random mumble jumble now.
Woo!
On our new platform where you can hear all the sounds, such as.
I'm so happy I can hear that now. I loved that sound at first, but then it just stopped sounding.
Well, no, what happened was Discord, for some reason, started cutting it out on you.
Yeah.
And because we were forced into doing a Google Meet the other day, I went, this isn't too bad. This actually works. I'm kind of impressed. We decided.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Google Meet works so well, honestly.
Yeah, well, that was the big one for me. Oh, here's the other one for you. Something else we haven't been able to do for a while. Let's see if we can do this for you. There we go. Let's see how it does for sharing a screen at the same time.
Ooh.
So you can actually see what I'm doing live.
Wow, that's a first.
Well, not a first. It's a first in a very long time because every time we ran the screen sharing in Discord, it got throttled.
I'll say first of the year.
I think it's been longer than that, but okay.
It's first of this year, of 2024.
Yeah, I think it's been longer than that since we've been using it, though. So at any rate, we've got some of the functionality back that we haven't had in a while, which is kind of cool. So kind of impressed that Google actually made something useful like their meeting platform. Let's hope they don't screw with it too much.
Ooh.
Now that it works. You
can
what?
You can pop it out, like how you can pop out a movie that you're watching.
Mm-hmm.
You can pop out the screen share and then you can make it big, and it didn't lag your voice at all when I did that.
Cool.
It actually kind of made it work better because your voice was starting to sound a little slow. And then I made the moving stop in the screen where it's showing your face. It's just a screen that you're sharing, and it seems that it's actually keeping pace better now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, they've got some strange way of wording everything, such as here, let's share a screen. No, it's called present. And I am presenting. I'm not sharing. I'm presenting.
Well, to be fair, every single program has its own language, so they got to be different.
They got to be different. It's like, why? Because nobody should speak the same language.
Well, I think what it is really is they're all like siblings. They got to be as opposite of each other as possible while being absolutely identical.
That's interesting.
I think that's my favorite thing that I've noticed in my two kids so far. Because I didn't have siblings growing up, so watching my kids is my experience with siblings, really. And they are pretty much identical in their personality types, but then they're also complete opposites. And I swear they do it on purpose. They force themselves to like or dislike things if they notice that their sister likes it. I swear that's what they do.
Well, that's what kids do. That's a general rule of siblings.
Yeah, it's interesting.
They don't want to be too much alike.
So all these programs are like siblings. So they're trying to be as opposite as possible while also being identical.
Well, doing the same thing and fighting a man. That's what they're doing. They're just fighting for no real apparent reason. Then they can.
Like kids.
Yeah, like kids. Kids are always doing that.
My two have actually argued over who's using up more air in the back seat.
I've not had that problem, but okay.
Yeah, we were on a road trip. Well, we were coming back from camping, and they had this really invested argument over who was using more air.
Well, at least they weren't arguing over who was using the least air.
No, they didn't think about that. But my goodness, if they can get into argument over who's using more air, it just astounds my brain.
Well, sibling rivalry is a real thing.
It is, and it's interesting as heck.
But the moment some outsider comes to interfere with that sibling rivalry,
oh man, don't mess with them.
Look out. It's gone.
Yep.
It's gone. Yes, I can beat my kid, my sister. No, you can't. Yes, I can beat my brother. No, you can't.
Only I'm allowed to beat my brother to a pulp.
That's right. That's the way it works. Rules, man, rules. Rules of the world. All right. So what else we got? Random stuff today.
Well, been checking on the chickens regularly.
No. Are they eating any more eggs?
No. We've narrowed it down to fairly certain it's one of the white ones that lays the pink eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Narrowed it down to them. Right now, we're only getting one pink egg. We're checking everywhere, making sure that we're not missing it anywhere.
Well,
but we're only getting one pink egg right now. So I don't know. I mean, is it possible that the egg just got stepped on and cracked and it like leaked?
Yes, it's quite possible.
Okay.
And, if you're only getting one pink egg right now, it could just be the chickens stop because they do that when they first start laying eggs. They start, then they stop, then they start, then they, then they get into the rhythm of it.
Yeah.
No, and we're still not quite fully long enough days for the full rhythm of an egg a chicken a day. And of course, you got to remember these chickens here, being heritage hens, they don't lay every day in general.
Mm-hmm.
They lay on a 24 to a 38-hour clock or 40-hour clock, give or take.
Yeah, they lay at odd times.
Well, they lay at odd times, but they also like, your standard brown chicken that lays the white or brown eggs. Those chickens will lay an egg every day during their productive season, during their long days. But heritage hens will sometimes skip a day or two even during their productive season. But the difference is that I read about. Difference is that heritage hens will lay for upwards of 5 to 6 years, whereas the other ones will only lay for 3 or 4 years. So you get longer production out of them.
Well, it makes sense that they would stop laying for a while because, I mean, that way they conserve their energy.
Well, most chickens usually almost completely stop during the winter months, unless you put a light in there. A lot of their egg laying is triggered by daylight.
Then what the heck is going on with our chickens, man? They haven't stopped all winter.
Oh, if they're getting a good healthy diet, they'll continue. But you did notice we didn't get that many eggs all winter long.
Last year, we've been getting a landfall of eggs lately.
Yeah. You get like maybe 1 or 2 eggs every few days during the winter. But come summertime, it's pretty much every chicken lays an egg a day.
Yeah, they've been laying pretty well. I'm quite impressed.
But also another thing that determines whether or not they'll lay in the winter is if they're getting well fed.
Oh, our chickens are so spoiled.
Yes. Well, they were extremely spoiled all winter long. You were making, a hot mash for them every morning. So, all right. Well, I think we're coming right up on time. On that note, let's have a little music.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill.
have it. I think it's time to get this going.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for WordPress Plugins A to Z, not Z.
Going nuts for WordPress plugins. It's episode 622, and we have plugins for conditional displays, logging in with IPs, and WordPress news, all coming up on WordPress plugins from A to Z. WordPress. It's the most popular content management and website solution on the internet. And with over 80,000 plugins to choose from, how do you separate the junk from the gems? Join us for a weekly, unrehearsed conversation about the latest and greatest in WordPress plugins. This is WordPress Plugins from A to Z. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe today. Coming to you direct from the brewery overlooking beautiful southern Vancouver Island. I'm John Overall, and with me is the ever lovely
Amber overall.
And we've got a great new show for you today. We've increased and improved upon things. We decided to use Google Meet for our sharing on this thing, and it works way better than Discord, which we were using previously. We were really surprised at how well it worked. We were forced into a meeting last week using Google Meet, and turned out it works quite well. So
I can hear the noises now.
Yeah, you can hear all the noises, and everyone else will get to hear all the noises like they've always heard them. But you get to hear them finally. Ha-ha.
And not talk through them.
And not talk over them, not stumble. At any rate, enough of all that. I may as well.
Thank you for sharing, John. Now get down from that soapbox.
Although I'm finding that the noises that I heard before, now I'm hearing them about 10 times louder. All right, so welcome to episode 622, Going Nuts for WordPress Plugins. We've got a couple of great in-depth plugins to cover for you, some recent news in both the WordPress world and the tech world in general, and some awesome WordPress tips. Hoping everyone is keeping well out there and looking forward to the warm weather. I know I'm definitely looking forward to summer. I'm done with cold and wet. Mostly cold.
Yep.
Couple of reminders. Just a quick reminder that our show is every other week, and it starts at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time, with the pre-stream starting about 12:15 Pacific time. Pre-stream is where we twiddle with the dials and knobs and really just warm up our voices, have some interesting conversations. Sometimes you might learn a few things if you come and listen. Our show notes for each episode can be found at wppluginsa2z.com. The newest show notes will be up within 24 hours and on our front page. Don't forget that this is a value for value show and that you are a big part of its creation. You are our producers, and we need you to help us to produce. Get on out there and hit some like buttons, share an episode or two, and let people know that you helped to produce the longest running WordPress plugins podcast. That's it for reminders. No, don't forget to stick around until the end of the show. We do the Q&A at the end there. Still haven't managed to stump my dad. Maybe some of our listeners start sending in questions that we can maybe stump him with. Maybe we'll actually get there. How long have I been trying to stump you for now? 3 years?
Yeah, since I've gotten you on, it was 6 months. Yeah, it's about 3 years, give or take.
I love that picture. It's so cute.
Yes. Today's artwork.
It's like a calm version of the Speedster. It's so cute.
I thought it was kind of cool. Goes well with the meme that's floating around the internet right now.
Definitely. So, if any, I'm guessing this is some of Sir Rogue's art.
It's until further notice, until we have artists contributing again. It's all going to be Sir Rogue's art.
Okay. Well, if anyone out there listening has an interest in bringing in some art, we would love to see some art, especially crazy cute stuff like this. My goodness, it's adorable. Mm-hmm. On to the news.
All right, let's go.
Please, can everybody be quiet? Please be quiet. Shut up! And now the news with Amber.
Yep, that is about 10 times louder too.
Well, it's all going to be 10 times louder for you, I think.
Maybe. By the way, we should keep that scroll as a background image. I want that picture. I'm going to keep that picture. First thing that I have for today is a WordPress vulnerability report for February 14th. In this report, there are 143 plugins that had an issue. 117 of them are currently with patches, 26 of them are without. So, the ones that I most easily recognize, well, it's a bit of a list, but most of them just have long names. Tiny MCE and Tiny MCE Advanced Professional Formats and Styles. Like I said, long name. WP Contact Form. We have a lot of Elementor stuff in this list. Now, it seems like most of the Elementor stuff has been patched. We have Elementor Website Builder, more than just page builder. Essential add-ons for Elementor. Best Elementor templates and widgets. Kit's WooCommerce builders. Royal Elementor add-ons and templates. Event Manager, Events Calendar, Events Tickets for WooCommerce, Eventin. So there are more. There's also more Elementor stuff that are in there. Be sure to go and check out this list for yourself. Most of them have been patched at this point, but there's quite a few that haven't. You'll find the ones that have not been patched. I don't know. I'm not sure if they're scattered throughout. It looks like you're scrolling through them right now.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through them.
Yeah, so I guess the ones that have not been patched are all at the top.
Yep, ones that have not been patched at the top. We already went through them. I was looking
That's
for
actually good. It used to be that they just kind of stayed where they were. So I like that. That's a new thing that they've added. I like it. And then we also have the link for the WordPress vulnerability report from PatchStack. So this is always a good one. I'm finding that I usually go to the first one we just looked at, the solid WP, and then I also go to PatchStack now. I've kind of been able to wrap my mind around how PatchStack has everything laid out, and going to PatchStack is a bit more up to date and more immediate response. Like, you look on here, you can see the latest vulnerability was 3 days ago, and it was a plugin. You can find a lot of information on both of these, especially when you mix them together. It kind of gives you a whole picture. Next up, it's alive. So the WP Tavern is finally back. There have been 7 people hired for the next 2 weeks, and over the next 2 weeks, these 7 shall compete with one another to see which 2 of them get the jobs. Allegedly, the other 5 will get decent freelancing opportunities. This will be good, though not as good as full-time work. Yep. I think my favorite part about this article is a comment. Let the WP Tavern games begin.
Yep, pretty much.
Left by Joe Velasco.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it'd be nice to see the tavern back and see if we get some good reporting as well as forget her name now, Sarah Jennings. Be nice because she did good reporting.
She did, and you know what? I actually was impressed with the first 2 things that they have up here. Those are the next 2 things I'm bringing.
Oh, okay.
So next one is Bricks 1.9.6.1 patches critical RCE vulnerability. So for those who don't know, like myself, because I suck at acronyms, RCE is remote code execution flaw. What this means is that it allows attackers to potentially gain unauthorized control over websites running on affected versions of Bricks. So if you are a user of Bricks, make sure you go and get the update if you haven't already. They've fixed it, but you want to get in there and fix it right away. For those who don't know what Bricks is, it's a page builder that's not too different from Elementor. There's been, I know there was like a huge scandal around Bricks for a little bit, but I think that died off. Next up, we have WordPress 6.5 Beta 1 has been released. So if you are one of those who likes to be on the bleeding edge of WordPress releases, here is your chance. Beta 1 for 6.5 has been dropped. There's a little information here in the link for you. There's actually a lot of information link here for you, actually. So be sure to check it out. Next, we have WordPress user survey indicates rising frustration.
Imagine
so
that.
I found this one interesting, actually, not just because I don't like Gutenberg, but because it seemed like Gutenberg was actually being really well received, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, over the last year, it's not so well received. I didn't know this, but apparently it's getting slower, lagging, and it's not responding properly, and it's getting harder to use the blocks. This is what I'm reading. I decided to dive down the rabbit hole a little bit, and yeah, it seems like people have been complaining about this more and more and more. And the survey that they recently did, they actually go through all the questions that they asked, but like 55% of WordPress users are not happy right now.
Imagine that. It wasn't like 80% of them were unhappy when they forced Gutenberg down our throats.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, a lot of people did take to it pretty well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm honestly surprised, but I have to admit I am kind of pleased because Gutenberg hurts my brain. I have tried to use it. I just keep breaking it.
Yeah, well, that's not good for WordPress in the long run. They need to address some of the issues because the reason they created Gutenberg was to compete against Wix and everybody else who was creating the fancy page builders.
Unfortunately, WordPress has been losing customers to Wix and other companies.
Yes, I know.
They're losing them to their competitors because of this.
Yeah. Problem is they thought they were making it easier to compare, but they were chasing the wrong audience.
Yeah, I think people who like building on Wix tend to go to Wix. People who like building in WordPress tend to go to WordPress.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well,
that's just my opinion, though.
Well, that's the truth of it.
So we also have some extras here. We have some more stuff from WP Tavern, and we have other things. Random stuff like why no one knows quite when a descending satellite will hit Earth this week. Very important information to know.
Is there a satellite coming in to hit us? Oh, a satellite. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. One falling out of the sky. They fall out of the sky regularly.
Yeah, they do. So be sure to check out the extras to find out all that awesome information. On to Dragon Maiden time.
Alrighty. Alright, first plugin. I've only got one here for you today. It's called Conditionally Display Featured Image on Singular Posts and Pages. Now, the reason I ended up hunting this down here, I was starting to look for doing my own code for it, but then I realized, oh, check a plugin. Somebody may have already written it. Well, a project we're currently working on, which we'll announce in probably about 2 or 3 weeks when we make it live. But in the project that we're rebuilding, they had a specific effect for some of their posts in that they wanted their feature image to be displayed and picked up by Google and other items, such as if it's shared out through Twitter and whatnot, but they didn't want the feature image displayed on the page itself. So they had to put the option in there for turning off displaying your featured image. And this is a really fantastic little plugin that does that trick perfectly for you. You plug it in, turn it on, and you may have to tweak it a little bit, but not by much. There's just a very minor tweak that you need to do to it. One of the biggest things was change the wording of it, because you can see the wording of it is display featured image in post list only, hide on singular views. Again, wording, folks. Could have just been simple as don't display a featured image on this post. I mean, no. We want to make it words.
Well, yeah, you gotta have more words because more words means more attention, right?
Yeah, I know. That's but the nice thing about it is these guys make it easy to change the way it words, and they even have it listed in their drop downs of what can do. Plugin doesn't work with my theme. What can you do? If you have problems with the theme, they've given you filter hooks to make it work with your theme. Can you hide the feature images by default? Yeah, you can make it hide feature images by default if that's what you want throughout your whole site. And they even give you the function code to drop into your functions file. How do you change the text? This was the one that I wanted, so that I didn't have to go hunt it down. They give you the text, and you just go in and tell what string you want. Hide featured image in post. Nice and simple little plugin. Worked beautifully. Set up great. did the function I wanted it to do without any headache whatsoever. So go check this one out. Fantastic little plugin. It is called the Conditionally Display Featured Image on Singular Posts and Pages. And I give it a 5 dragon rating.
All right. So now we're going to go over the WordPress tips.
Ah.
I can hear it now. It's awesome. All right. We would love to hear some tidbit tips back from our producers out there. What did you figure out by breaking something? Or what did you need to learn in order to help someone else who broke something to fix it? You can send these tidbits into me at amber@wppro.ca. So, making sites. Don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether that is to the developers of the plugins or just the people you know who might be able to help you. If you can't figure out the problem on your own after a decent amount of time, it's time to call in reinforcements. And that does not mean you failed. It just means that you need help. I mean, it's the same all across the board. No matter where you're working, you have to call in help eventually. But this job, I personally believe that this particular kind of job where you are on the computer and often away from all other people, it feels like you should just be able to figure it out no matter what it is, because you have to rely on yourself. You have to rely on being able to do things because you don't have a whole workforce around you in person like you would, say, in an office. But often you can't do that. You have to go out and ask for help when you can't figure it out after a while. And also, if you don't go and ask for help, how are you going to learn all the different possible ways to figure something out? Because in order to learn, you got to watch other people, right?
That's one way. Yeah.
All right. So beginner's tips. Go break something. Create yourself a sandbox or a dev site and then go break it. Break it good. Break it so good that it may take you 2 weeks to figure out how to fix it. And then go back to whatever you were having a hard time solving before and try again. You will find it a lot easier to solve now that you have thoroughly broken something else. Kind of like in welding, when the weld won't go right, go melt something into a pile of molten metal, chuck a few scraps around, then go back to the weld you weren't getting before, and it'll be a lot easier to get it done now. I don't think it actually matters what the trade is. When something frustrates you, go break something. And then you'll feel a lot better. You just go back to whatever you're doing. So that's my beginner's tip. Go break something.
Alrighty then.
All right, so IP-based login. This is a plugin that was sent in to us from the plugin developer. I am going to murder his name. Brijesh Kathari.
You probably got it pretty close.
You think so? Hopefully.
Well,
So I'm going to be covering the free version this week, and then because this developer was awesome, they sent me in the pro version to try out. Next show, I will be covering the pro version. So what this plugin is for is it gives you the ability to authorize someone to log in without a password, but you're doing it through their IP. So what this means is you add the person's IP address into the plugin, and that person will be able to log into the site without having to enter in any credentials at all. So it is connected to a user, but once you put in their IP, that user can then just kind of go to the site and be logged in. They don't have to worry about passwords. So that is kind of useful. Like, first thing that popped into my head is when you're dealing with developers or something and you need to create a password for them, say the password just isn't working for some reason, we'll get this plugin, throw it in there, throw their IP in there, and then they have, you have to create a user for them, so you can set the user up, get their IP, they go to log in, they can just get right in there. And you just have to remove their IP. You don't even have to remove the account afterwards. Just remove their IP and they can't log in because they don't have a password. I thought that was a really cool way to work around an issue that I've seen a few times. So this is a freemium plugin. As I mentioned before, you're getting the free version rundown today. Once you download and activate the plugin, you'll find the settings in your left-hand menu under IP-based login. Although you can also click settings under the plugin itself on the plugin page. I like it when they do that. That's a cool shortcut. On the plugins dashboard, you will see global settings and add IP range. I noticed that the free version, you do have the option to mark off the checkbox, select checkbox to destroy session if IP is changed. So this will affect only sessions created by IP-based login. I thought this was pretty cool. I think it's a decent failsafe, although not sure if what'll happen is if you're logged in and somebody else is using your account, maybe like your login credentials, maybe the different IP address login will get you kicked out, but it does say that it'll only affect sessions created by IP-based logins. So I wasn't able to test that function out. That's something that I'm not sure about yet. If anybody does try this out and is able to answer that for me, let me know. And I'll figure out a way to test it over the next couple of weeks so I can bring that answer to the next show. To add the IP information, you add the username of the person you want to give access to. There is the ability to click on Show List of Users in dropdown. So you could just have a dropdown of usernames if you can't remember the exact username. You choose a username for a dropdown that appears to you, and then you fill in the IP. Well, you fill in the start IP if you only have one IP address. You can also have a range of IP addresses. Not entirely sure how that works. How does that range IP addresses work? Do you know?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, can you explain that to me? Because I actually don't really know. I tried looking it up and I didn't really find proper information.
All the information's there. You just got to figure out how to decipher it.
Okay.
An IP address range is, take for example, IP address 123.123.123.001.
Mm-hmm.
Or 000. It goes from 000 all the way up to 255. Okay. So if you want to set up a range, you can set up a block range, and I can't remember the specific blocks because I forget. There's 22 block, there's 32 block, 24 block, and they cover a range of IPs within that block of addresses. Or you can just set up a range of IPs and say, I want to allow IP address 123.123.123.0010, and you can put a dash in somehow, I forget it, and you can put it up and go all the way up to, say, 25. So it'll cover IP addresses from 10 to 25. That's an IP address range. It's a confusing mess. There's tables out there on the internet. Every once in a while, when I have to deal with this, I have to go back and look up the tables because I just can't remember everything that it goes with, especially when I'm dealing with the slash blocks. Because they have a shorthand code which is /24/32. Like I think I have a /32 on my servers, which means I have a block of 4 IP addresses, and it's a range. You know, and so it's just the way it works. The IP address system is beautiful and convoluted at the same time. It's like trying to tease out the spiral in a Nautilus shell.
I was thinking like a spider web made while the spider was on caffeine, but
well, there's that too. You know, but it's actually quite beautiful when you can wrap your head around it. But then if you don't keep your head wrapped around it, come back and look at it again later, it's all start all over again.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, now I understand that. What you can do with this plugin is you can either check the checkbox that says to allow ranged IPs, or uncheck it and just have a single IP.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, the free version only supports up to IPv4. I don't think that's a problem for most people, but you need to get the premium version to get up to IPv6.
Yeah, currently IPv4 still works. I've only encountered a couple of clients that don't have an IPv4 address anymore.
Okay.
Most everyone still has, most everyone, if you do a check on your IP address, you'll find that you have both a IPv4 and an IPv6. And not every server out there is looking at IPv6 addresses yet. That still hasn't completely been changed over. It's going to eventually, as they cram more and more Internet of Things into the houses. They need IPv6 addresses because.
So really, it's if you're on the bleeding edge and you need that.
Yeah, if you're more on the bleeding edge. At the moment, IPv4s are still pretty standard, but IPv6 it started a few years ago when we ran out of IP addresses. The internet has literally run out of IP addresses.
Okay.
IPv4 addresses. When they created the system, they thought, oh, I forget how many billions there are. We'll never run out until we do. But the new system, the IPv6, is quadrillions of addresses.
All right.
We'd have to quadruple the population of this planet before we'd run out of those ones, I believe.
Yeah, Hemdian just said IPv4 numbers are running out. Yeah,
No.
that makes sense.
They've run out. They've run out. People own blocks that they're not using, but they've run out.
Okay, so another thing that you'll need to get the premium version for is if you want to only allow whoever you've given access to a certain allotment of logins. You can limit them if you want. Limit them to like 3 logins or 1 login, what have you. This way they can log in and you don't have to worry about them logging back in again. The plugin just won't let them.
Cool.
Yeah, so the free version gives you very simple capability to make it easier for giving access to particular people. No need for passwords. I think it's really cool. I do think that the usage limit option could have been left as part of the free version. That's just my opinion because it seems like more of a security thing. I don't know. That's what I think. So as mentioned before, I will be bringing a review of the pro version next show. I rate this at 4 dragons.
Excellent. Alrighty. Well, here we go.
It's time to donate to WP Plugins A-Z.
Just a quick thing here. Hemdian said, how long before IPv6 runs out and what will be next?
Oh no, IPv6 is it. We'd have to quadruple the population of the planet and the number of devices we have.
Unless people quadruple the amount of blocks they buy.
No.
No?
The blocks are so huge.
Oh, okay.
IPv6, how many digits are in? See, IPv4 only has 4 blocks of 3 digits. Okay, but IPv6, what is an IPv6? IPv6 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks of 4 digits, and it's not it's not just numbers; it's letters also.
Oh.
It's numbers and letters. So now we have 0 to 9 digits. Plus, they use the American alphabet for the letters, so we have 26 letters. The combinations you can make with that are insane.
I was just going to say nearly endless.
Nearly, but not quite. You know, but the thing is what's... Hang on a second.
Hemdian said that's what they thought when IPv4 came out.
Well, see, they weren't thinking. See, IPv is a 128-bit address. You know, the 32-bit address is IPv4. Okay, so here is the number of addresses possible in IPv6: 340 trillion. So you wrap your head around that number. You know, so what was the limit of IPv6 or IPv4? IPv4. See, IPv4 was only 4 billion addresses.
Wow, I'm actually surprised it took so long for them to run out.
Well, you gotta remember, when you're at home, you know, take for instance, you're using one IP address to the public, but you've got multiple devices connected to your router using an internal IP address. They reserved out a specific block of IP addresses to use internally, and that are never public. They're never allowed to be used public. So,
he also asked, is it all letters? I thought it was hexadecimal, or am I wrong?
No, it's all letters. As far as I know, it's not hexadecimal. I just looked at it. It doesn't look to be hexadecimal. So, as far as I've seen, it's letters and numbers. I've never seen any hexadecimal code in an IPv6 address.
That's interesting.
It is. It's an interesting rabbit hole to dive down if you're trying to learn how the network of the internet works, because it's very important.
Oh, make sure you have a whole weekend at least if you're going to dive down that rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, you're to dive down that rabbit hole. That's a pretty deep rabbit hole. I had to do that 15 years ago after I'd been running servers for 5 years. I had to dive down those rabbit holes to figure out a bunch of things that were going wrong with my network.
All right, so on to our producer know-how and donations segment. Earn yourself a producership credit. We have 3 levels of producers that help to keep the show's larders stocked to bursting. We have our freelance producers, backroom producers, and war room producers. There are special perks for backroom and war room producers that you can learn about on our site, WP A-Z.com. Click on Time, Treasure, or Talent Donations in our main menu to learn all the nitty-gritty details on how you can add your 2 cents. You can join in and be part of your own production, and you can support the show at the same time. There are loads of ways to use us as your tool, so get on out there and do some things. Like, you could get yourself into an interview with us. We'll send it out to the world. That'll help you and it'll help us. Leave a review for a plugin, or donate your own plugin to be reviewed. Like we had someone donate their own plugin for today. They get 2 weeks worth of talking out of it. There are all kinds of things that you can do. It'll help you and it helps us. You can check out our show notes to get some more ideas. We do not have anything from our listeners out there, no questions, no's, or feedback today. But we do have some miscellaneous announcements. Now, for our listeners and our producers out there, if you have anything you'd like to have announced out to the world, like a meetup, or you'll be on stage at a WordCamp or something, let us know and we'll put it in here. Currently, the next 5 WordCamp items on the list are WordCamp Kansai on February 23rd to 24th, WordCamp Asia on March 7th to 9th, Women WordPress Day on March 8th, Switzerland Community Day on March 23rd, and WordCamp Torledones, I think, on March 23rd to 24th. You can see the entire list if you follow the link here, central.wordcamp.org. And if you're interested in finding a WordPress meetup somewhere around the world, you can go to meetup.com/pro/WordPress. Again, the link is here in our show notes. For anybody who hasn't heard already, the YYJ WordPress meetup group has been canceled and does not exist anymore. Keep checking back to get any more information. You can also reach out to us. We have a physical address that's right here in our show notes, but then we also have our virtual addresses, so you can reach out to us more easily. Today's plugins we covered were...
I covered up the conditionally display featured image on singular posts and pages by Cyril Bollinger. And this fantastic plugin allows individual featured image to show in a thumbnail in archives, uses a simple checkbox feature, and it works in Classic Editor. And also works in Elementor, and also works, where else did I have it? I haven't worked. I forget. Anyway, go check it out. I gave it a 5 dragon rating, keeping with bringing nothing but dragons this year.
So every time that you read that out, all that goes through my mind is long name, amazing results. So I covered IP-based login by Brajesh Kathari. Easily grant specific access via IP, capability to grant access via range of IPs, and no need for a password for granting access to particular users. Currently, I rate this at 4 dragons.
Very cool.
It's question and answer time with John and Amber.
All right, so my first question, well, first, actually, if anyone out there has any questions they'd like to send in, send them in to me at amber@wppro.ca. I would love a question that would stump my dad. That'd be awesome. So I already kind of asked this question before. I jumped ahead of myself. What is a range of IPs and how does that work? You kind of already explained that.
Yeah, well, if you had this in the questions, you should have just said, well, I've got it coming later. And then we could have held off on that big, long discussion a couple minutes back.
My curiosity got the better of me.
So a range of IPs basically is a block is IP addresses that are sequentially blocked together. A range. It's like a range of numbers, 1 to 10. Same thing, same idea, without all the explanation previously.
Yes. So how often do people's IP addresses change?
Well, they used to change constantly, but
Really?
well, yeah, it's because what happens when you log into the internet, you log in through your router, and once upon a time, you had to boot up your router and then connect your computer to the router to connect to the internet. Well, what happens with that router is it goes out and it gets an IP address from a central source from the internet provider, because the internet provider has a block of IP addresses that they issue to all the routers on their network. And what you do is you don't own the IP, you're leasing it. And that lease, you lease it from the central authority. And some places have the lease set up for 24 hours, some for 36 hours, some for 7 days. I think the cable company here gives a 7-day lease on the IP address. But what happens is if your router never turns off, as the lease gets to be expired, the router fires off another signal and says, I wish to release that same IP address. And so, and because the central authority goes, well, no one else is using it, you can keep using it. You're good. But if you turn off your router for, say, 24 hours or more, what could happen is somebody else might turn on their router, and when they request an IP, they might get the one that you were just using. So when you go to turn on your router again, it'll go say, hey, can I have this IP I was using? The central authority goes, nope, you can't have it. Somebody else is using it, but here's a new one for you. So you get a new IP address. But because routers are left turned on constantly now, they're never turned off, it's very rare to get a new IP. I've been where I'm at right now for 7 years, and I've had the same IP address for 7 years.
Okay.
Once upon a time, because of the way it was done previously, with the constant of changing, I had to pay an extra fee to my cable company to get a fixed IP. I would ask them, hey, I need a fixed IP because, well, I'm in internet provisions and stuff, and I need an IP address that is dependable because there's certain stuff I log into that if my IP address changes, I have to go through a whole rigmarole to reconnect, because a lot of stuff is determined by IP, much like the plugin you covered. You know, hey, you get logged in, your IP is here. So, but because of that, because of the way it works now, you don't have to get a fixed IP, because as long as your router isn't off for an extended amount of time, your chances of losing the IP are very slim. So
That's very
They
interesting.
don't change very often anymore. They used to change a lot, and the people's IPs change constantly. Ask them, so how often do you turn your router off? You'll probably find they're the kind of people that they turn their router off at night because they don't like the EMF radiation.
Makes sense.
So, but if
sorry, go ahead.
say if you're an IT of any sort working from home, you never want to shut off, because you always want to keep that IP address because it is like a security feature.
Makes sense. So MDN said, okay, just checked. An IPv6 address is represented as 8 groups of 4 hexadecimal digits. Each group representing 16 bits is separated by colons.
Yeah.
But some combinations are reserved to Anycast, whatever that is.
Yeah, okay.
What's Anycast? Do you know?
I have no clue what Anycast is.
Hey, something that stumped you.
Yeah. I've never heard what it is. I can find out in a matter of seconds or minutes, though, I'm sure. Just type it into Google. Google's got an answer. Okay, so the IPv6 addresses are hexadecimal. I guess, define hexadecimal. I mean, hexadecimal is a specific set of 16-bit or 16 characters. A number base that has a base value of 16. Okay. They're only hexadecimal numbers are represented only 16 symbols. So if they're using 16 symbols, I guess, but I've always just seen the address as numbers and letters, so that's what I assumed it was. You know, but I don't know. So okay, so they're using the hexadecimal numbers 0 to 9, and the hexadecimal letters A to F. Okay, so it is hexadecimal. All right, so you've got it right there, Hemdian, but I hadn't gone down that rabbit hole yet. I've not been bothering to look.
And now you'll vanish for days.
No, I don't need it yet. I won't go down that until I absolutely need that. Because that's a rabbit hole I just don't want to stuff in my head right now. I'm already in enough rabbit holes right now.
Fair enough.
Every time I pop out of one, I end up diving into another these days. So we'll just leave it at that. But yeah, okay.
All right, so I have 2 more questions for after the closing.
Yes, we run our closing credits here for those of you who are listening on the podcast downloads from all of the directories out there. And if you want to hear all the cooler questions and sometimes extended discussion after the show, you're going to have to come visit us on YouTube. In the meantime, we'll let our girl take us on out of here.
Reminders for the show. All show notes can be found at wppluginsa-z.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the newsletter for more useful information delivered directly to your inbox. WP Plugins A-Z is a show that offers honest and unbiased reviews of plugins created by developers because you support the show. Help keep the show honest and unbiased by going to wppluginsa-z.com/donate and set the donation level that fits your budget. Help us make the show better for you by subscribing and reviewing the show at Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and in the iTunes Store. You can also leave us a review on our Facebook page using wppluginsa-z.com/Facebook. You can also watch the show live on YouTube, check out the screencasts and training videos, and remember to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications of all new videos. Follow the show on Twitter at WPPluginsA-Z. John can also be reached at his website, johnoverall.com, or email him directly, john@wppro.ca. Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the show. This show is copyright by johnoverall.com. So until next time, have yourselves a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be out there on the globe today.
All right.
All right, I know what Anycast is now.
What's Anycast?
Anycast is a routing method where they route your information to different locations on the internet. It's similar to the context of a CDN network or a content delivery network. And what they do is they route incoming traffic to the nearest data center with the capacity to process the request efficiently. And it allows a network to be more resilient in the face of high traffic volume, network congestion, and DDoS.
Okay.
So it's actually kind of a cool thing. It is a bit of a rabbit hole, but I wanted to know what it was because it's like I've never heard of Anycast. What the hell is this?
Also, Hemdian added, I was manually curating a blacklist of IPs to block from my sites. Most were IPv4, some were IPv6. So that's where I got the vague familiarity with IPv6 formats. But beyond that, I'm no expert.
Yeah, well, I'm no expert either because I'm just beginning to wrap my head around. It's like they introduced IPv6. I think it's been four years now, maybe 5 years, somewhere around the end of the 20 teens. You know, right around 17 to 19, they introduced IPv6 because they had proclaimed that we've run out of IPv4, which we knew was coming for 10 years. And I just started wrapping my head around all the different things around it, and I poked at the IPv6, and I still haven't even set my servers up to listen for IPv6 or to broadcast an IPv6. Say not listen, but to broadcast an IPv6. I do have it. I have blocks of IPv6 addresses, but I haven't added them to my servers yet. And there's many companies I don't think that have added them to their servers yet. This is just where we're at, and it's one of those things that's going to take us a while to get it fully integrated into the network. Yeah, remember the internet's created 50 years ago, and only in the last 20 years has it been 24 years. Actually, it's getting close to 30 years when they finally made it public. So, but it's only become useful to the public as stands right now, right around 2000, 2002. That was when people started actually realizing the value of it.
Yeah. All right. So next thing is, I guess you kind of answered this before, but can a person's IP address change while they are working online, or do they need to disconnect and reconnect in order to have it change on them?
Oh, it can change while they're online. Doesn't
Wait,
happen.
what?
Doesn't happen very often. It's a very rare occurrence. But you can end up you can go look into your router settings to find out when your lease expires.
Okay.
And your lease could expire, and for whatever reason, the central authority say, nope, you can't have that one. Here's a new IP for you. And it can break things. I've had it happen.
Wow, yeah, that would definitely break things. Imagine imagine working on a site that only certain IP addresses can get into.
Yeah.
And then your IP address changes. Wow, that would be terrible.
Yeah, it's rare. It's a rare occurrence, but it can happen.
Wow.
I can only recall it ever happened to me once, and that was back in the days when the central authority didn't always issue you the same lease back.
Okay.
Now they'll issue you the lease for the same IP, provided nobody else is using it.
All right. So another question is it possible to have your own personal and private IP address that belongs to just you? If so, why don't more people do that? If not, is it possible, or is it just not done?
Oh, it's possible if you got a shit ton of money.
Oh, really?
You can still buy blocks of IPs, and we're talking an entire block of, say, address 001, 00 is all the way to the end, to 255 all the way to the end, 255 the end. And then you can buy entire blocks if you got a shit ton of money. Individual IPs, it's very I don't know if it's possible to buy an individual one. Everyone sort of has their own personal IP in their homes. They have the 198 block of IP addresses. And what's the other one they use now? They use a new one now. Can't remember when they switched.
What do you mean it has two? I thought we just had one IP address.
Oh no, you've got two. You've got two IPs. You got the IP address you use to connect to your router, and then you've got your IP address you use to connect to the internet. Now the IP that connects to the internet is your router's IP. Okay, and that IP address here. See here. Oh, that's not what I want.
So that would be the IP address that we use to put into the code to allow people into sites and stuff.
Yeah.
The one that's used to connect to the internet.
Yeah. Well, what they've done, they switched to local. Okay, the 198 block of IPs. That's 198.0.0.0.1 to 198.255.255.255. That is a private internal network IP. They've also added a new block to it for it's the 10 block, 10.0.0.0 all the way up to 10.255.255.255. That's your internal network in your house, IP address, what your router issues out. Everybody has these
Okay.
Okay. Your public address will be whatever your public address is going to be. And you can check your own public address. Don't shout it out to the internet. Don't give it to anybody that doesn't have a need for it. People can find it, but once they find an IP, they can perform hack attacks on your routers. They even improved that security too. Finally, it used to be a real pain in the ass back in the early 2000s or mid 2000s. But you've got your public IP, which is owned by your internet provider, your cable company, your telephone, whoever you get your internet from. They own that address, but they own a block of addresses. Big giant block of addresses that they issue out to all their clients on a per need basis through their central automated authority. So you could buy your own IP. Why would you? Unless you were going to run your own network center. You can buy, there are available to buy blocks of IP addresses available on the open market, but they cost a shit ton of money. You could have bought them for cheap 20 years ago. They were relatively cheap. You could buy bulk blocks, but now they're worth big money because there's a shortage of IPv4 addresses. So now they're worth big money. And there are people that lease them out. And the thing is, the spammers, big spammer companies, they own blocks of IP addresses, and that's where the spam comes from. That's why there's certain blocks of IPs that are just banned everywhere on the internet.
Okay, so you would actually have to buy a block. You can't just buy one address.
Yeah, I have no idea if you could buy one address or not. I've never dug into that aspect of it. But I know you can buy blocks. Like the ones I get from my servers that I run, I lease those blocks of the IPs from the data center who owns the larger block.
Okay.
So I sort of own them. I own them as a lease, but they're mine until I stop paying for them.
That is so interesting.
Yeah,
Hendian said, I maintain custom tables on my site's database by linking it to a database server on my PC. To allow access, I had to whitelist my local IP address on the server control panel. It rarely changed.
Yes. Yeah, that's a similar aspect. That's a similar aspect to me in accessing my servers. My servers, I have my local IP address whitelisted on my servers so that if I accidentally typo my passwords, I don't get locked out of my own servers. So, because my firewalls. So, and I had that happen to me once.
Oh no.
What a pain in the ass it was to get back into my server. I had to actually go somewhere else and log into my server and remove my own block. So yeah, the IP network is just it's an insanity. That's why there's dudes named Ben who do nothing but manage the routing of the internet. They do nothing else but manage the routing of the internet.
I'm getting an image of those women who used to control the board for telephone calls.
That's pretty much how it works.
Yeah, only it's mouse clicking now.
Yeah, pretty much how it works. And yeah, it is mouse clicking now with a whole bunch of other miscellaneous things. So yeah, that's the internet in a nutshell for those of you that might be interested in it.
All right, well, I think that probably wraps it all up.
That does. That gives us a nice long discussion here today. All right, thanks, Hembian. We greatly appreciate your input, always. Loads of fun.
Absolutely.
Would
love if more of our listeners would pop in and talk to us like this. It's great.
It would be really great if they did. All right, well, let's have a little music to carry us on out of here. Thanks, everyone, for showing on up.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread we're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder, but we're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder.
That's it, folks. That's all we got now. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care.
Oh my god, that is amazing!
Oh no. Obviously, we just lost the satellite feed.